From now on, I will be switching to a less expensive competition. Please try not to go bankrupt." Someone laughed obscenely over the phone. Our business has always surmounted challenges by utilizing its technological expertise. The department leader was unaware of the difficulty of mastering this patent. I came to the conclusion that we would probably never work together again. Thus, it was time to sever our ways. Heart full of that resolve, I respected White's choice. Even if you experience adversity, don't regret it. What now? How is that possible? His chuckles got louder yet. White still didn't realize how stupid his decision had been. White said he was quitting our business yesterday, but the next day he called. Now, what does he want? Unlike usual, White seemed visibly frightened when I answered the phone. What is happening? You have to be to blame for this. Our sales will end at zero at this rate. That day, there was going to be a dramatic collapse of the laughingstock of the department head. My name is Daniel. I run a construction company, and I'm 37. Recent changes in construction conditions have made it necessary to achieve energy-saving criteria in order to be eligible for mortgage tax discounts. We've created a new construction approach since my father's time, since we have produced a special technology to meet these specifications. As common sense changes, so will people and homes. Neither our business nor we will endure if we don't change with the times. With the technique my father developed, one air conditioner can effectively control the temperature of a whole house. Those working in this groundbreaking eco technology have praised it greatly. My father used to say that this technology was produced because of the craftsmanship in our company. Although not many in the market are aware of this proprietary process, industry professionals who are interested in taking a tour have begun coming in every day. New technologies will probably continue to be produced by my father's desire to give housing that is appropriate for the times. Along with inheriting these goals, I also inherited the company's patents and several problematic commercial relationships. Hey, this pricing is clearly excessive. For what purpose are you using so much money? As per usual, the annoying partner called today. White Koshi, a very stingy business partner's department head, was on the other end of the phone. Our business provides reasonably priced houses and renovations. However, in order to save money, we shoulder more of the responsibility and receive less money for our construction labor. In the construction sector, the likelihood of finding fresh employment vanishes as soon as the flow of jobs stops. I understand that we have to accept assignments from clients even if they don't want to, but White's attitude always irritates me. I need at least that much, because disposal costs are on the rise. Do you think I could just use my money for trash fees? Take care of things on your end. Every year, the expense of getting rid of building trash has gone up. Failure to adhere to the appropriate protocols may result in criminal prosecution. Because we don't want to use up internal resources on disposal duties, we prefer to hire contractors for waste disposal. In addition to building houses, our company also does renovations. We were able to overcome our financial struggles in the past by accepting a renovation project from this client. The client kept asking for more work from us because they were so happy with our initial restoration. After receiving assistance during a difficult period, my father kept taking jobs. But since White took over as the client's company's department head, our pay has decreased. My father was worried by this because he knew the company would suffer if he continued to oversee bad projects for Loop. My father created the construction approach while taking on renovation tasks because he was afraid of going bankrupt if we couldn't provide anything that was appropriate for the times. White did not understand the importance of this construction technique, though. These days, affordability is crucial. There will always be price competition, regardless of the time period. We allow clients to recognize our company efforts by providing lower costs. It may also be interpreted as advertisement. Has he ever thought about who gives up this affordability? I was simply enraged with White because he doesn't understand at pushing cheaper prices nonstop in the absence of progress benefits no one but ourselves. According to what I've been told, this department head is misleading not just subcontractors like me, but also the clients by telling seniors, or giving the impression, that they could receive subsidies for renovations or by failing to educate a newlywed couple about building regulations in order to persuade them to apply for a home loan. These are but a few of his transgressions. If verified, White's activities might have been illegal, and our organization, having hired him, might also be held accountable. Few businesses work with White because of his poor reputation. Most likely, only ours would take him on at such a low cost. I opted to face White directly because I wasn't sure whether he really knew who was in a dangerous situation. I recently got a complaint from a person you recommended. They were informed that a subsidy would enable them to pay the expenses, but their application was turned down. I'm not aware of that. I'd only said that receiving a subsidy was an option. The buyer heard that and made their own decision. He refused to honestly address the client's grievance. It is obvious that carrying on in this manner will eventually render doing business in the construction sector impossible. There's no way to find new work after the flow of jobs stops. I think this is a phenomenon that affects those in sales as well as those of us in the construction industry. Money is not as crucial as trust. Using affordability as a shield, White appears to be discharging his responsibilities, unaware of this. As per usual, one day White placed an order. The thought of facing a barrage of irrational requests for grief made my stomach turn. Nevertheless, White declared abruptly, "From now on, I will entrust all construction to one company." The sudden halt of our transactions confused me. White unilaterally declared the end of our business relationship without consulting me, even though up until now I have had to cope with all kinds of outrageous demands. Dealing with such a client irritates me. Yet, even though my organization places a strong premium on trust, White attempted to sever our relationship without being sincere. Please wait. After we've fulfilled all of our responsibilities up to this point, it is inappropriate to discontinue this without giving notice. Naturally, I objected, but White would not alter his stance. The cost of your place is too high. Compared to your rip-offs, I know someone who will accept the work for less money. That's the only thing about it. Nothing more than the pricing competition was lost by your organization. According to White, the price is the cause. Sincerely, there were moments when we lost money, and I doubt that anyone could provide it at a lower cost without creating a mess. I couldn't understand White's willingness to take such chances in order to save money. He didn't even think about the possible risks he was assuming. And yet, in spite of everything, White brushed it off and continued forth. "From now on, I will be switching to a less expensive competition. Please try not to go bankrupt." A coarse chuckle resounded from the telephone. Our business has always completed orders using our technological expertise. The head of the department was unaware of how challenging this patent was to grasp. I knew I should break things off with him. Probably, we would never trade again. I went with my gut and agreed with White's judgment. Don't regret it, even if misfortune comes your way. What happens next? As though that were possible. His chuckles got louder. White still didn't realize how stupid his choice had been. White gave me a call the following day. What might he want now that he said he was ending our business dealings yesterday? Unlike him, White sounded visibly disturbed when I answered the phone. "What's happening? You have to be to blame for this. Our sales will end at zero at this rate." Over the phone, he sounded pained. Following our conversation yesterday, White had given all of his projects to a business that provided lower prices, but astonishingly, by the following day, that business had vanished from existence. None of the guilty persons could be found. Their clients, whose business had been relocated, were incensed and urgently needed to find new employers. However, White, ever the miser, was being rejected by rivals who were offering fees that were too low. He was also disturbed by a particular standard that these rivals had imposed on him. Our company doesn't have construction methods that can meet the current energy-saving standards. Indeed, the ability to deduct mortgage interest is impacted by yearly updates to building codes. The government wants 80% of houses to be energy efficiently designed since it expects a rise in the number of vacant residences. Houses must therefore fulfill energy efficiency criteria in order to be eligible for mortgage tax benefits. Many contractors are still not aware of these developments, but some businesses are and have made preparations. Some contractors still provide out-of-date paperwork, such as design housing performance evaluation documents and housing performance certificates, even though they are required to submit things like building housing performance evaluation sheets and housing energy performance certifications. I've heard that a lot of folks are losing money as a result of not being able to deduct their mortgage interest. Why can't you meet these basic standards? It's unbelievable. Your demand is incredible. The only thing we can do is carry on as usual. If you ask us to change all of a sudden, it is an issue. Find someone else if you don't like it. Many artisans are obstinate about keeping to their methods because they think they are the best, regardless of what other people think. This is certainly a temperamental trait that cannot be altered in a craftsman. In the industry, my father stood out for trying to make something that was appropriate for the moment. He must have considered survival after thinking about it for himself, but most craftspeople don't think about survival very much. Although I didn't tell you earlier, our technique satisfies the most recent energy-saving requirements. As a courtesy, I was hoping that it would help individuals with less issues. In order to satisfy these energy criteria, we have copyrighted our construction technique, which we have been offering to clients for free out of consideration for their benefit. I've always made an effort to lessen the amount of people who fall for a ruse and get depressed. This is due to my preference for building trusting relationships with our clients beyond simply providing competitive pricing. Why did you withhold the patent from me? Do you believe that such deceitful actions are appropriate? What about it is dishonest? I've given our consumers a thorough explanation of everything and have their consent. Furthermore, I've prepared the paperwork required for them to claim mortgage tax deductions. As you didn't explain things well, don't try to handle things on your own. We've experienced major setbacks. How are you going to make up for this obligation? White attempted to assign blame for the debacle to our lack of information providing. It was obvious that this would just make us easier for him to take advantage of than before. White lacks self-awareness as evidenced by his incapacity to even envision such situations. You've made things worse for us by not giving us the right information. This is a grave and irreversible infraction. White would not even listen to my courteous explanations, and he even threatened to sue the company. I believed that rather than acting out of rage, he ought to be searching for a business to take over. Simply accept it. Our company could easily crush yours if we truly tried. Not me, but you will regret it. White made these remarks, but his actions were misguided. The clients did not accept his decisions, which were made on his own. Due to his authoritarian approach, White, who was already despised by the firm as a result of multiple complaints, was now faced with all of the collected concerns. Ironically, he had no allies within or outside the organization as a result of his conduct, which only made matters worse for him. Why should I bear the blame? It is the fault of your company. Please come here right now and explain the circumstances. White persisted in claiming that he was not accountable. His agitation was almost humorous. I was requested to explain everything when I was called in by the customer. To be honest, I told you about taking cheap work, giving customers free homes that qualified for mortgage deductions, and all the crazy projects that White ordered. I shared everything honestly, including the negative things I had heard from other businesses. After expressing disbelief, the client apologized to me. Most likely, they were unaware that things had grown so awful. It is disheartening to consider that a single manager's actions brought so much hardship to everyone in his vicinity. One person's irrational actions can cause distress for a large number of individuals. Things became worse. Clients who felt duped by White organized and filed a lawsuit against the business. The number of instances was astonishing, although the damages range from little to big. It's not difficult to envision the tremendous work needed to examine each one. As I have emphasized numerous times, the decision was made by the customers. I remained silent. White would not acknowledge his transgressions, though. Eventually, White showed no remorse, and even the president lost his cool. You're not aware of how important your work is. Our building partners offer the corresponding expertise, and customers are making purchases that will last a lifetime. That is all we are. and it is our duty to create a suitable atmosphere for sales, declared the president. He stated that the corporation was accountable for White's careless behavior. He appeared sober and serious about the situation. However, White refused to take accountability for his acts all the way to the very end. Had White's obstinacy been conveyed more effectively, he could have been an exceptional individual. Maybe it was the supportive atmosphere that transformed him. It is stated that people begin to view others as stupid once they recognize they are in a position of dominance. The clients made the decision to go over every transaction from the start after that. In the worst situations, consumers signed contracts for millions of dollars, but they were eventually unable to obtain a mortgage. One client's parents' riches kept them out of bankruptcy, but if it had been someone less secure in their finances, they might not have made it through society. I granted their wish for a home. They should be thanking me instead. As twisted as he was, White offered little more than childish justifications when pressed for them. He just couldn't act like an adult, and everyone was amazed. Nobody can figure out how someone like him got to be a manager. One of the main problems with contemporary society is the absence of social responsibility. It's unlikely that he can even fathom that what he's doing could end up hurting him. I didn't realize things had gotten so bad. As he apologized to me directly, the president remarked, "I hope you can forgive the inconvenience caused." I had never before gotten an apology from someone in a higher position that was so genuine. This, in my opinion, is the real essence of a leader. Any wrongdoing by a worker or anyone connected to the business ultimately falls within the purview of the president, even if it has nothing to do with them personally. Executives and managers are in charge at all times. Those in authority are always ready to bow their heads, regardless of how strictly the laws are followed or what errors are committed. I completely appreciate the president's sentiments as a fellow business owner, and I've made a commitment to keep that in mind. It is imperative that I exercise caution in emulating this leadership figure while overseeing my own company. Why must I endure this kind of suffering? I'm not to blame. It's all everyone else's. As a result, White received reprimand, and the business chose to file a lawsuit because it believed that the dishonest business tactics exposed in earlier transactions were totally unacceptable. White had been complaining vociferously about my firm, but ever since he was disciplined, he appeared completely deflated, as though he had lost all motivation. He must have known there was nowhere left to run. His bullish strategy may have succeeded in the past, but it would not pass muster in a court of law today. His previous deeds would be examined. The shape of what White had done was ready to take shape. That's the nature of a trial. White's family has abandoned him, and he is currently the subject of a criminal investigation. His wife reportedly absconded throughout the night with their kids. He's all alone now that his parents, the only family he has left, have disowned him. The attorney he is paying is currently the only person who supports him. This portrays a man as having put his own interests ahead of his connections. He never acknowledged any wrongdoing till the very end and kept acting out of pure selfishness. His circumstances are not commendable. Rather, they are a direct result of his deeds. I hope he thinks back on his actions, but I can predict how harsh his punishment will be. If he is to have any chance of getting back into society, he has to suffer more than the people he wounded. At the very least, I hope that this circumstance results in his recovery. A few days later, I was asked to assist a customer who had been harmed by white people by a client. I readily accepted their promise of a higher reward than the one I had received previously. Purchasing a home is a significant financial commitment, akin to purchasing a life. This is the reason the obligation is so great. Being able to give a decent home is the ultimate satisfaction. Overburdened with numerous problems, my client was afraid they would lose everything. Yet they had made money on other projects and were not in danger of going bankrupt. The customer president impressed me since he was always prepared with a backup plan. It is now much easier to work because the unreasonable demands are no longer there. My spirits are as high as the sky because those anxious calls are no longer there. I've had the good fortune to find someone and get married since then. Maybe one bad break has finally resulted in a good victory for me. Even though I used to dread every day, The sunrise now seems like a fresh start, a break from the past. In fact, pursuing affordability is essential. Lower pricing enables products to be more broadly distributed and increase their visibility. Both businesses and people cannot exist without recognition. This is how today's world can feel at times, but we must remember that trust comes before affordability. One cannot claim to be acting truly without both. I believe that manager's example taught me this lesson. I promise not to repeat his mistakes and to make sure I don't become like him.